21 days ago, I put my fear on a shelf and decided to start my YouTube channel after 2 years. It was at least 2 years of thinking about starting my YouTube channel. So today I'm going to go through the 5 biggest takeaways and things that I've learned as a result of putting my fear on that shelf and going ahead and getting started. If you haven't met me before, my name is Jen. I'm super happy to meet you. I help midlifers start coaching, consulting, and guidance businesses. And we also have a fantastic growing community on School. So if you're interested, please take a look. The link is in the description for that free community. All right, so I'm going to get right to it. Number one, the number one biggest discovery I've had as a result of starting this process is that 1.7 hours of work will produce a video that people resonate with. Now you may say, Jen, that's a weirdly specific number, 1.7 hours. It's approximately 100 minutes. You can look at it that way as well. But what I've done over the course of the last 21 days is I've tinkered with a variety of backgrounds, formats. If you go back and look at my channel, some of those formats are like a build in public format. There are also, there's some like Zoom talking head type things where I'm like a talking head and also displaying things in Zoom. In other videos, I'm just doing what I'm doing today, where I'm sitting outside and I'm talking. And I find that these more mindset, what I learned videos outside specifically take a lot more planning than some of the other types of video formats that I've done, and these have also performed better. And I thought at first maybe it was due to like simple things, like people would rather look look at this. What's not to enjoy about looking at this? But I really don't think it's something that simple. I think at the end of the day, when I really ask myself why 5 times to try to get to the root of why those videos have performed better, are performing better, that has everything to do with the amount of time I actually put in on the front end. And it was significantly more than some of the other video formats that I've done, mostly because, I was displaying something and I had something to reference off of. And it's just beginner things and beginner learnings, and it's not good or bad. It's not here nor there. It's not a failure by any stretch of the imagination, but it's part and parcel to this whole experiment of YouTube. And so that was like one of the number one things that I recognized, is that quality focus and deep focus on, coming up with your title, thinking about your thumbnail, and then crafting a good structured story. Putting that 100 minutes in on the front end will definitely create a much better output on the back end, and therefore you'll see the video performance correspond to that or resonate along with that. And when I talk about video performance too, because I think this is super important, like I'm not talking about followers per se. I'm talking about information that creates a quality connection with someone. So what I think is better, if you're going off of a YouTube metrics, from a metrics standpoint, is paying attention to the amount of impressions so the amount of times YouTube is serving up your videos, and then your click-through rate relative to that, and also the comments. Like the comment section, you're doing this to connect with people, or I'm guessing you're doing this to connect with people because you genuinely want to help folks with something, or inform them of something that's extremely important to you. You could also say educate someone about something that's extremely important to you, and you just want to help them at the end of the day. And so all of those components go into the structure of that video, and I feel very firmly that taking that 100 minutes is the way. That is the way to do it, to use some Mandalorian on those of you Star Wars fans out there. So number 2, you want to also get very crisp and clear on the why of your videos and the why of your channel. And so that can look differently to different people. It could be like your why could be tightly coupled to an offer because you're selling something to help folks. It could also be tightly coupled to maybe a vision statement or a mission statement, right? But in the absence of either three of those things, a mission statement, a vision statement, or I would say also understanding like your customer profile, and that's coupled with an offer. If you don't have at least one of those three things, your channel is going to wander, perhaps around the desert. And viewers aren't very receptive to wanders around the desert. And that means that, you will have traction, you will get followers, but being able to sustain those followers and get YouTube if you're doing YouTube for AdSense revenue, or if you're doing it because again you want to build a community and hopefully at some point offer a product or service to that community. It's going to be very difficult to do that in the long run if your videos don't have like a thematic through line through them. So I highly recommend that you get crisp on that sooner rather than later. And then just do the work of trying to couple the content you're creating with that topical area. So, with that why, with that vision, with that mission, with that offer, because that is going to provide the most results for you. How-to videos, number 3. How-to videos do not seem to resonate with people. So earlier on in my YouTube viewing days, it seemed like all there was on YouTube are how-to videos. Now, I'm a sucker for a good how-to video. I live on 10 acres of land. We've got some farm animals. Stuff breaks around here, right? And sometimes I can be kind of frugal about how I go about getting it fixed, and I might want to do myself, but I might not have context for how to do that myself, right? And in those type of niches, so if you're in like a DIY kind of niche or something like that, the how-to videos can be hugely valuable. But in general, my experience so far in what I've learned is that those just don't really seem to resonate with the folks that are being served up my content. It's more I would say the mindset type information, the information that talks about getting over fears, that kind of information definitely resonates with people more strongly. It's like this video format actually. This is what I did and this is what I learned type format that really seems to resonate with folks and bring it home. Usually there's a level of vulnerability that goes into these videos as well, which probably makes them more authentic overall. So that's definitely something to think about as you're starting to, or as maybe you're not super jazzed about the progress you've made on your channel and you're looking to pivot or improve your content. That's something to consider in terms of improving your content. Number 4, daily content versus 1 time per week or 3 times per week. So 21 days ago when I started, I did 7 days of posting content every day on YouTube. And that was a variety of video lengths. Some were 20 minutes long, some were like 8 minutes long. I don't think I had any that were under like 4 or 5 minutes. I think 4 or 5 minutes was the shortest video that I had. Some really stunk, honestly. They just stunk. But I was okay with that because that ultimately was part of the experiment of what I was doing and how I was getting started on YouTube. So I gave myself a lot of grace in terms of trial and error, and then again, just reviewing the data and seeing what sticks. And by far, since I did that 7-day stretch, it's like the algorithm was like, wow, rewarding me up the yin yang, even if my video was a little stinky and the click-through rate was poor, it kept serving up my information. And now the last 7 days, I posted 3 times during the week. And that really, my traction overall started to slow down. So now that we're getting into like the next batch of 7 days, I think of my content in like these 7-day stretches, it's definitely starting to slow down a smidge. Now, I know that YouTube algorithm also tends to do this roller coaster type effect where it's like it serves, and then it's like results, and then it sort of slows down, and then it ramps back up again once it takes in that new information, that new performance information based on previous content. So there is some amount of like a roller coaster that's going to happen there, and don't freak out about that. Like there's going to be ups and downs. It's not going to just continuously grow. It's when you take a step back and look over months that you'll see this hockey stick effect over months and years. It's not just months, but over months and years you'll see this hockey stick effect type start to take shape. So I highly recommend posting daily. Like I'm seriously trying to figure out scheduling in my life so I can go back to posting daily. Admittedly, I also enjoyed the rigor of it. It's hard to come up with to my number one point, 1.7 hours or 100 minutes just to focus on content. But regardless if you're like the reasons why you want to do YouTube or start a YouTube channel, the underlying component there is that you want to get information out to people, and there's a creative process involved in doing that. And I just think that reps and reps and reps and reps, that daily reps, especially in getting your mental muscle attuned to doing that, getting your editing skills up, whatever the case may be, is a really good way to just like, I crushed the fear of this thing. I crushed the fear of being out there, being seen. I notice even in just regular day-to-day conversations, even in the whatever work that I'm doing, it could be talking to some random person in line somewhere or whatever it is, that I'm showing up differently than I have. So there's definitely an element of self-improvement to just the process of creating and posting videos. So don't be afraid of 7 days. Like that should scare you. It should make you pucker a little bit. And like it makes me pucker so much so that I know now what it takes to put a quality video out every day. I'm a little not even a little, let's be real. I'm very uncomfortable with dedicating 1.7 hours just to content creation via video, but it is what it is. And so I am going to take this week to get some things set up in my life as far as my schedule is concerned, so I can go back to that type of a schedule, because it did make a massive difference, again, in the amount of impressions that I was getting and my click-through rate as well. So definitely take that one into consideration, because that's a pretty solvable one just in terms of frequency, right? So frequency does matter on YouTube. Number 5, I'm competing against myself. So I think it's really easy to look at our favorite people on YouTube and start to do a comparison of, oh, they do this so good, or I need to do this better, or they have all the, this audience and they've got really good participation in their comments and this, that, and the other thing where that's concerned. But what I've come to realize is that they've just had more time on task than I have. And so, of course, they're going to be better. But I'm also not competing against them. I'm competing against Jen. I'm competing against myself. And I'm my only competition. I'm my only worst nightmare as far as that's concerned as well. So like, that's been a huge discovery, a very unexpected discovery for me, is that I'm not competing against anyone in the same coaching space that I'm in the same midlife space that I'm in. I'm just competing against myself. And after the last 21 days of time on task with that, letting that settle in has been comforting, actually. It's been comforting because, like, I'm okay with challenging myself. I'm okay with making myself uncomfortable. I bet you're very comfortable with challenging yourself, and I bet you're very comfortable or can get comfortable with the uncomfortability of all of this so that you start or pivot or whatever your situation is with YouTube. So don't let that stop you, because this is going to be a big self-discovery journey. And one of those giant self-discoveries I made is that I'm only competing against me. You could also say, if you're into Jungian psychology, you're only competing against your shadow, your own internal shadows, your own internal self-limiting beliefs and limiting language that you impose upon yourself. So it's okay. Start anyway, because it's like I said, it's only been 21 days, and I wouldn't take this journey for anything else. This is some of the best stuff, the best way of putting myself out there and self-discovery that I've experienced in a long time. No amount of journaling will open you up like this will open you up. You can put a stamp on that. You can tie a bow around it. That's my guarantee to you. And then the last item, actually the last item was about the item about competing with myself. I lost track of the numerical order of things. So what I'll do is I'll just wrap this up right here and say, again, I know in some of my previous videos I've talked about just starting. Don't let the fear of being seen continue to prohibit you from not starting. I can do this. I did this. I'm doing this. Present tense. I'm doing this. You can do this as well. I know you can. And so I'd love to hear from you in the comments below if you've started your journey, if you need to pivot on your journey. Also, remember, there's the school community. And if you'd like to just set up 30 minutes with me and chat about where you're at and how to get over a current blocker, I'd love to have a deeper conversation with you. Take care.